my signal, begin.
Laser tag, the game that moves at the speed of light. From Worlds of Wonder, stadium not included.
Fancy restaurant, candlelight. Is this business or pleasure?
Which do you prefer?
Stick to business. People are watching.
Of course they are. This is a commercial to prove this is the perfect time for Seagram's Golden Wine Cooler. It's wet and it's dry.
And it's Seagram's. I heard. What happens after the commercial?
Pleasure.
What do you have in mind?
You get to drink it.
New Seagram's Golden Wine Cooler. It's wet and it's dry.
Breakfast to go. Crust sandwich. That's crust sandwich. Burger King, the best food for fast times.
They've given us an endless summer of songs about waves, woodies, and women. Join Ray Charles, Gloria Loring, and Paul Schaefer for an all-star jam in Hawaii. The Beach Boys, 25 years together.
Is everybody ready to rock and roll?
Friday after Webster. Snow White and Prince Charming are back.
You told the woodsman to cut out my heart.
And then you poisoned her with an apple.
Well, you were going to hold a grudge.
And after 1,000 years,
John's the king of carpets.
they're in the suburbs.
The king. At your service, sire.
From fairy tales to the rat race.
Must you whistle while you work?
I can't live in the same house with her.
Snow, she's your stepmother.
She's a witch.
Yes, but she's family.
Here come the Charmings. Friday, March 20th.
Wow.
What you eating, babe?
Nothing, honey.
Oh, you can tell me.
Kellogg's Nut and Honey Crunch.
So what makes it taste so good?
Nothing, honey.
Oh.
Kellogg's Nut and Honey Crunch.
Looks good, Private. What is it?
Nothing, honey.
You love the honey, you love the nuts.
When you've got the special taste of nuts and honey all wrapped up in a hearty crunch, what more can you say?
Looks good, Sergeant. What is it?
Kellogg's Nut and Honey.
Nothing, honey.
Crunch.
If you need protection, Nick Escalante is your man.
I just want to lead a braver life.
I'll put you to accept. Let me see what you got. That's it?
Well, for now, yes.
Ah! My eye!
Last night, a close personal friend of mine was treated with some disrespect.
Burt Reynolds in the role you've been waiting for.
Want to know how long it's going to take you to die? I'll give you a hint. Think in days.
Heat, rated R.
Starts Friday, March 13th at a theater near you. Tuesday, kick off your evening with a top 10 performer.
This is great, huh?
Who's the boss? Then
Go ahead and dunk a punch.
it's a carnival of fun and fantasy.
May I try? I'm his sister.
Growing pains after Who's the Boss? Tomorrow.
Are those Lay's jalapeno and cheddar potato chips?
Yep.
Did you know they're guaranteed?
Nope.
If you don't like them, you get another flavor free.
Do I have to?
No.
Lay's brand jalapeno and cheddar. Bet you love them or get another flavor free.
I like the way you make me laugh. I like the funny things you do. You got a style that's all your own. I like the sprite in you. You make me want to smile. You know you make me sparkle too. You're such a kick to have around. I like the Sprite in you.
Sprite, the only one with lime in it. The unexpected twist that makes us different, livelier, special.
I like the Sprite in you.
First day of work.
Well, wish me luck.
You'll do fine.
Wanna make a good impression.
I hear there's a new kid starting today. Oh, I hope he's cute. We're open in a few minutes,
What
sir.
if they think it's a little late to start a new profession?
How you doing?
You got what it takes, you know it's true. That you'll show them a trick or two.
Let's see that 3 bacon, egg, and cheese biscuits, 1 egg McMuffin, 2 sausage muffin with egg, and 1 large OJ.
Are you sure you never did this before?
Thank you. Come again.
How'd it go?
I don't know how they ever got along without me.
This is the new shape of tough, the new 87 big Ford pickup. And to prove its new toughness and power, we're going to haul this Chevy up this monster mountain of boulders while towing this Dodge. And this year a GMC pickup too. This new aerodynamic Ford has the biggest V8 engine and a new multi-port fuel-injected 6 standard. And there's more news. Now there's a 6-year, 60,000-mile powertrain warranty on all 87 Ford light trucks.
Now get 3.9% financing or $600 cash back from Ford.
Welcome, everyone. So apparently, according to the 80s, the Beach Boys were all about waves, woodies, and women. Listen, y'all need to get your heads out of the gutter, okay? A woody is a car, okay? It's a car with the wooden panels and, you know, that had the surfboards on top. That's what a woody was known as, okay? So stop it, especially you, Cherry. Stop it right now. Anyways, yeah, so we're going to be talking about this press conference that just took place. I'm sure the entire world was in Annie's chat just now, watching this big nothing burger, basically, as she likes to put it. And I mean, it was basically the same press conference as the other one. If I had to guess, the whole purpose of this press conference was, okay, the holiday weekend's coming up. Let's give them something. Let's give the people something to chew on while, you know, they chew on their turkey and their stuffing and blah, 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 and all that stuff. So that's probably the whole purpose of it. That's probably why it was scheduled so early and so ahead of time. I did not expect there to be any news, you know, I mean, because if there was a development in the case, they would have shared it, you know, a few days ago when they first planned the press conference. I would think so. Anyway, but there were certain things. There was so this is one of those very few times that Annie and I disagree. But can you hear the sarcasm there? Can you hear the sarcasm? So yeah, there's the whole thing where people are saying that law enforcement kept saying at this time. Okay, the hoodie guy, Mr. Hoodie Guy, weird, you know, stalkerish kind of thirsty hoodie guy, which I just think he was a horny dude. Saw a couple of girls, was hoping to talk to him, and they took off. And those girls being Maddie and Kaylee. Now, I get why it's kind of weird, but law enforcement, they're saying we're not looking at them. That's it. That's all they're saying. And I get it, because they usually say at this time. So I understand the Mandela effect type thing happening, you know, where you think you heard at this time. They're not saying at this time. They're basically saying in the context of, we're trying to squash the rumors. We're trying to squash people saying this shit because they don't want to give this dude a hard time. They don't want this dude getting a crazy pitchfork mob after him because they don't, you know, they don't suspect the guy. let's just accept it and move on. But I'm gonna go over this. I was in Annie's chat, in and out. Shut up, Cherry. And I what's up, Annie? I'm gonna go ahead and go over it. And this way I could pause it and talk over it because I'm sure everybody already watched it and blah blah blah. So that's the advantage. I don't have to be all quiet and get a bunch of shit from you people for talking over it. But yeah, here we go. Let me go ahead and share the screen. You're the one with the filthy mind, Cherry. Miss the glare in and out 2022. That's you. That's you. That's what you do. Everybody in the chat knows you do that. So telling you to shut up in advance is absolutely justified. Who do I think murdered those? Wow. At this point, I think it was Professor Plum with the candlestick in the dining room, in the study. I'm sorry. Yeah, meaning I don't know. Nobody does. Have no idea. No clue at all.
Sorry, I forgot the most important part of my job. I just want to let you guys know that there will be a question and answer time. We're going to try and extend it today to be a little bit longer, so that way more people have the opportunity to ask questions. We have a gentleman who will be passing around a microphone, and he does not know what organization you're from, and so this will so it's purely random. So please keep questions to one or two, and we'll try and get to as many people as possible. So thank you.
I mean, at least the press asked better questions this time. Slightly better questions.
Good afternoon. My name is Chief James Fry with the Moscow Police Department. Joining me today is Captain Roger Lanier with the Moscow Police Department, Moscow Deputy City Supervisor Tyler Palmer, Colonel Kedrick Wills of the Idaho State Police, University of Idaho President Scott Green, University of Idaho Dean of Students Blaine Eccles, and Latah County Prosecutor Bill Thompson. We are thankful for all the tips and leads the public has provided in Ethan, Xana, Kaylee, and Madison's murder investigation. No bit of information is too small, and every tip will be pursued. So far, this information has helped investigators build a picture of
now, see, that's one of those things right there. When they say stuff like that, I'm always like, well, you know, that's great. I love when they do that, but there's so many people that take that like, okay, well, let me call in the tip line and give them my whack ass theory on what happened and start making crazy accusations and giving them a summary of all the rumors that I've heard and Reddit forums and Facebook groups. And that's not what the tip line's for, people. So he's not going to tell you that, but I'm going to tell you that. That's not what the tip line's for. If you have credible information on the case, that means credible information, verifiable information, not your crazy armchair fucking whack ass theory. Nobody's interested in that. You're not an investigator. Let the cops do their jobs.
The areas of interest and the relationships these four had with each other and our community. We still believe there's more information to be gathered.
See what I mean?
We'll continue creating a window through which we view this case. We all want to understand why this happened and what drove someone to do this. The families of those involved and our entire community deserve to know. We ask anyone with any information related to what happened with these four who are in our community, their interaction with others, and whether they expressed concern or commented about someone or something strange to get that information to us. Even if you don't believe it is relevant, investigators will review and determine if and how your information builds.
I did that out of principle, Julio, because you're whining.
Sometimes what a video or picture doesn't show is equally as important as what might be there. Information on how to submit tips and updates on the investigation can be found on the Moscow Police Department webpage. We continue moving forward to understand why this occurred in our community and seek answers to bring justice for the victims and their loved ones because they deserve it. I personally want you to know we care and we will continue to work hard to get these answers for these individuals.
Okay, real quick. Let me address this comment here. Corey Reeves, no, they don't. Like, if you've been paying close attention to this case, this is a small, tight-knit community. They've never dealt with anything like this. They've never dealt with a high-profile case like this. So, no, they don't deal with armchair detectives all the time. This is very new to them. And in their, in their defense, I'm going to go ahead and say that they're handling this incredibly well. I actually love the way that law enforcement is handling the public lately, or throughout this entire investigation so far. But no, they do not deal with this all the time. No.
At this time, I'd like to introduce Captain Roger Lanier for an update on what we can currently share about this investigation.
Good afternoon. I'm Captain Roger Lanier with the Moscow Police Department. I want to assure you first off that the loss of Xana, Kaylee, Madison, and Ethan remains the highest priority for the Moscow Police Department. We will continue putting all of our resources into investigating and solving these murders. Investigators are prepared to work through the Thanksgiving holiday to continue their efforts. I also want to express our sincere appreciation to the Idaho State Police, the FBI, University of Idaho, and the Latah County Sheriff's Office for their assistance. And I especially want to thank the community of Moscow for their outpouring of support through this incredibly difficult time. Today, I'm going to recap in brief what we know. I'm going to provide some new information, and I'm going to address some rumors. On the evening of November 12th and into the early morning hours of November 13th, Kaylee and Madison arrived home at approximately 1:45 a.m. after visiting a local bar and a street food vendor. Ethan and Xana were also out in the community at Sigma Chi, and they arrived home at approximately 1:45 a.m. Two surviving roommates who were also out in the community arrived home at approximately 1 a.m. Later, on the morning of November 13th at 11:58 a.m., a 911 call was placed. The call reported an unconscious person. The call originated from inside the residence, and a surviving roommate's cell phone was used. During that call, the dispatcher spoke to multiple people.
Multiple people.
On scene. Moscow police officers responded and found two victims. Two on the
See, that's very important. I'm sure that has something to do with why they have not released the 911 call or the transcript of it, at least. It's still evidence. There's probably stuff on there that they haven't been able to discern yet. So they probably don't feel comfortable releasing it to the public until they know it front to back, without any without any doubt as to anything that has taken place during that call and on that call. So I understand that. If they haven't gotten to the bottom of every single aspect of that call, then it would be irresponsible for them to release it.
Two on the second floor and two on the third floor of 1122 King Road. The results of autopsies indicated that the four were stabbed multiple times and were likely asleep during the attack. Some had defensive wounds, and there was no sign of sexual assault. We do not believe the following individuals were involved: the 2 surviving roommates, the male seen in a...
Okay. We do not believe the following individuals were involved. Not at this time, nothing like that. Just plain and simple. We do not believe that the following individuals were involved. Now, that's not to say that one of them may not turn out once evidence presents itself later that they might, but usually in cases like this, what we usually see from law enforcement, their method of investigation is usually a process of elimination. They eliminate suspects before they actually get one. So anybody who may seem suspicious at first, they look into them, they eliminate them, and move on. It sounds to me like they looked at Hoodie Guy, they looked at the 2 people that drove Maddie and Kaylee home. They looked at everybody that the social media forums are going on and on about, and they've eliminated them. Now again, no, they never said at this time, Corey Reeves. Nobody said at this time. That's my point. I don't know this. What I don't know. This is perfect example of the Mandela effect. There's no point where these people said at this time, where these law enforcement agencies said at this time. They never said that. He just simply said, we do not believe that these people are involved. Now, when they say that, they're careful because there might be a chance, maybe some slim chance, that evidence comes up later and then it points them to, I mean, if you watch any episode of Law and Order, that happens all the time. Somebody that's like, oh my gosh, and then they're real cooperative and blah, blah, blah. And then the next thing you know, they had some crazy motive, but this isn't an episode of Law and Order, people. This is real life. And these are professional law enforcement agents. So, yeah, I think it's safe to just stop with the irresponsible speculation on the people that he's naming here.
assault attack. Some had defensive wounds, and there was no sign of sexual assault. We do not believe the following individuals were involved: the 2 surviving roommates, the male seen in a grub truck video circulating on the internet, a private party who drove Kaylee and Madison home, any of the individuals who spoke to the dispatcher on the 911 call. We're also aware of a male whom Madison and Kaylee had called several times the morning of November 13th, and we do not suspect that individual. Detectives have canvassed the neighborhood.
Okay, see, I was wondering about that. Okay, so the male that called, or that Kaylee called and Maddie called, is rumored to be Jack, Kaylee's ex-boyfriend. And that person, he just cleared that up. In the last press conference, he was not clear about that. And that made me wonder, because during that press conference, this same gentleman here said, if you're going to get information, get your information from us. And I made that assumption, or at least that assessment, where I'm just like, okay, well, wait a minute. They never said that they don't have a suspect. And they never said that this dude was not a suspect. They named everybody else, but they never said that this dude was not somebody that they were looking into. So, or currently anyway. Now he just cleared that up. So they do not believe Jack, the ex-boyfriend of Kaylee, is someone who that they should be looking at right now.
Physical evidence, video surveillance, and they've contacted numerous residents to see if anybody may have seen or heard anything. They continue requesting tips that can be sent to our tip line or called in to our tip line. The specific areas that we're interested in are detailed on maps on our city website and our Facebook page, but as stated earlier, generally south of Taylor Avenue to Palouse River Drive, and the area west of US 95 over to the Arboretum.
Now I have to give these guys credit again. I'm going to do this a lot, actually. I am really, really grateful to these law enforcement agencies, specifically the Moscow Police Department, that have been continuously sharing information, at least information that's not going to impede on their investigation. But they've been sharing a lot of information with the public, been very, very empathetic with the public. They're not like, hey, we don't have to tell you anything, because the truth is they don't. So it's really nice that they have been posting so much on Twitter and on Facebook and on their website. I think it's great that they've been so candid with us. So I just want to I have to continue to point that out.
We have heard mention that Kaylee stated
Okay,
she
see,
made
now somebody in the chat's already pissing me off. So Matthew Giannotti, okay? No, they don't. They have to tell us something. They have to basically tell us, hey, we're law enforcement agents and we're doing everything that we can, and we don't want to hinder our investigation in any way, shape, or form. That's all they're required to tell us, to reassure us that they're doing their job, but they don't have to tell us details of their investigation. Because a lot of times they don't. This is the first case that I've seen in a long time where law enforcement has been this candid with the information that they have with the public. So just saying, yes, they are civil servants, but they don't owe us anything other than reassurance that they're doing their job.
she may have had a stalker. Detectives have been looking into that, and to this point have been unable to corroborate the statement, although we continue to seek information and tips regarding that report. No suspects have been named or arrested, and we continue looking for what we believe to
See, and I'm guilty of this too. When he says things like no suspects have been named or arrested. So does that mean no suspects have been named to the public? Or do they have a suspect and they just haven't named him yet publicly? I mean, or does he just mean that they just don't have a suspect yet? So I don't know. I always pick apart every single word in a sentence like that. But I'm going to take it as they don't have a suspect yet. That's how I'm going to take that statement.
blade knife used in the murders. We have not released the names of any of the subjects who spoke on the 911 call, and we have not released the call itself. Any online reports of the victims being tied and gagged are not accurate. Regarding the resources that we've put forth in this investigation, the Moscow Police Department has 4 detectives, 24 patrol officers, and 5 support staff dedicated to this investigation. The FBI has 22 investigators in Moscow and 20 additional agents assigned in various locations, as well as 2 members of the Behavioral Analysis Unit. The Idaho State Police has 20 investigators, a public information team, a forensic services and crime scene team, and 15 uniformed troopers who have been valuable in helping provide community patrols and safety patrols. We very much appreciate their support. This is our highest priority. It will remain our highest priority. We owe that to the families. At this time, I would like to introduce Colonel Kedrick Wills from the Idaho State Police.
I like this guy.
Thank you, Captain, and thank you for those that are in attendance today for your attendance. We really appreciate this. What has affected Moscow and the community here?
Jim Joe, that's what they always do.
As Idahoans.
They're supposed to.
We have a way in Idaho that the communities come together in tough times, and this is one of those tough times. Leads from the community are important, and as the captain spoke, No tip is too small, and we would urge anybody that has any information whatsoever to
Don't
please
do it, Cherry.
provide that to help us solve this case. The lead agency of this case is Moscow Police Department with Chief Fry and his dedicated team of professionals, and the Idaho State Police's role is to support them and their good work here. There is an awful lot of efforts going on behind the scenes, and I'll explain why it's behind the scenes in just a moment. But what can't be seen isn't always known of what we do in law enforcement, and I'd like to explain that in just a moment. But the Idaho State Police and the FBI continue to provide resources to this investigation. I would like to speak for just a moment, if I could, not about this specific case, but rather an overview of how cases are investigated, so that maybe it'll give some sense of the why of the timeline here. We understand you want answers. We want answers too. But these take time, and if I could explain just a minute about the process here of what we go through just generally in investigations. So we use in advanced investigative techniques and crime scene processing. So what happens when a call comes in, the original officers, the first officers that respond to a scene, and then once that they've got their work there and determined that they need some additional investigative assistance, then they call investigators to come and help process that scene. And oftentimes it requires a forensics team to help process that scene. And when I say process the scene, what we're looking for is we're looking for any evidence that may help us to be able to find the people or person responsible for what we're seeing. And so we're collecting biological evidence, we're collecting latent evidence, whether it's shoe prints or tire marks or anything like that. We're trying to collect that evidence. We're trying to correct.
See, now, what people don't understand, and I love that he's making it a point to explain this, because there's just too many true crime enthusiasts out there that expect this to happen in an hour and in the time that it takes for an episode of CSI to solve a case. So it's just not that simple. Look at how long it took. I think it was 1.2 million pounds of garbage that law enforcement agents, trained forensic agents, had to sift through for weeks. Thank you for the PayPal. I don't want to say your name out loud, but I appreciate it. We're talking 1.2 million pounds, I think it was. And look how long that took. And then you just had a bunch of idiots, just morons. And I feel comfortable calling them that, because one of them claims to be a paralegal. And the reason why it takes so long is because it's a very meticulous process, and a process that I can't even begin to describe because I don't know anything about it. But common sense dictates that since you're looking through every single little piece of garbage, every single little piece, if there's a tied up bag with dog shit, they have to open it up and they have to sift through it. There's no room for error. They only have one shot at getting the evidence that they believe is going to put away Leilani for good. So they have to take their time and they have to be careful. And however long it takes is however long it takes, people. So to sit there and be like, they're not doing their job and they're not working fast enough, you don't know what it takes. These people went to school for this. Can you imagine that? Like having to literally be qualified via an education in forensics to go dumpster diving, basically, in a landfill. You know what I mean? Like, that's what it takes. Trained eyes, trained hands to sift through garbage to get anything that they believe would be even just partial remains of a 20-month-old baby. That takes time. So what he's talking about here in this case, a separate case, where 4 people were stabbed to death. They're looking at every little thing. They're analyzing every tire track. They're analyzing everything that might even resemble a shoe print. Anything. This is the stuff that doesn't go into an episode of CSI so much, does it? You've got to let these people do their job, and you've got to wake up into reality and understand that it's a very, very meticulous and careful process, because what they're looking for is evidence, not only to find out who did this, but also evidence that's going to put that person away beyond a reasonable doubt in a court of law, where a defense attorney has no room to create any doubt to a jury. That is a very meticulous and careful process that we have to try to even begin to understand. We'll never fully understand it until you have the training that they have, but you can at least try to understand more or less that it takes a lot more than what you can visualize and understand.
Correct. We do that through photographs. We do that through 3D 3D mapping to be able to map the scene. We identify and we mark evidence, and then we collect that evidence. And then we look for any evidence that we think may be helpful. And once that is done, then we package all that evidence up and we send it off to forensics laboratories to be analyzed to see if it can help provide clues of what's happening. All of this takes an immense amount of time. The reason this is,
and even that, like, just think about the chain of custody. Something as simple as the chain of custody. Somebody who doesn't sign off on something because they just forgot, or doesn't put a check mark. I'm just spitballing here, but doesn't even put it, like, forgets to put a check mark on a form during that chain of custody, is something that a defense attorney can use if need be. Everything matters. Every little thing matters. This takes time, people.
and this is important to understand, is because it's important that while this is such a tragic circumstance that we find ourselves in law enforcement, we believe we owe this to the surviving families to get this right. And so we're not willing to sacrifice speed for quality. We do testing for blood. We do latent print processing, any documentations for anything at the scene so that we can reconstruct that scene at a later date. If I could share just a few statistics.
Yeah, let's talk about that for a second. Let's just talk about fingerprints for a second, folks. Imagine, just try to, if you can, just try to imagine what the process for getting a fingerprint is. How many people live in that house? How many people were in that house? At least 6 people, right? Then there's the rumors that that was a party house. So how many people do they have to contact who were the last people in that house within 24, 48 hours, let's say? So they have to get every single person's fingerprint that was in that house. Every single person's fingerprint. And then they have to process those fingerprints. That alone, I don't even know how long that would take. That alone. Just the fingerprint processing. So anybody who's going, these people aren't working fast enough, when you don't fucking know what it takes to do what they do. I mean, they have to gather the fingerprints. They have to, dude, they've interviewed over 150 people already. Can you think of how long it takes to interview 150 people? So far, 150 people in what, a week? Just over a week? Dude, these guys are moving. Let me tell you, these guys are moving. Don't tell me these guys aren't moving fast enough. 150 people in just over a week. And then there's DNA, yes.
This particular crime scene. At this crime scene, we collected 103 pieces of individual evidence. We took approximately 4,000 photographs. We've conducted multiple 3D scans of the residence.
That's 4,000. How many did he say? Let me see that.
And we've conducted multiple 3D, approximately 4,000 photographs.
4,000 photographs. That's 4,000 pages of Where's Fucking Waldo, dude. Of really complicated Where's Waldo, because they don't know what they're looking for. So 4,000 photographs that they have to look over and look over and look over for anything that just seems odd. People, you got to give these guys, you got to give them some love, man.
We've conducted multiple 3D scans of the residence, and we have hundreds of hours used by technicians and investigators, including our forensics team and detectives from multiple agencies. We've processed over 1,000 total tips and conducted 150 interviews.
That's
I hope
another
that you
thing.
understand that gives a...
How many tips did he say here?
little bit of a perception, 150 interviews. We've processed over 1,000 total tips.
1,000 tips, okay? 1,000 total tips, right? That's 1,000 people that have called in that tip line. And that's what you guys have to understand. We have to use our common sense, okay? Please only call there if you have something that's credible. Please. Because they have to go over every single tip. They have to follow up on everything. No matter how ridiculous it sounds, they have to do that. Otherwise, they're not being thorough. Because as he said, they owe it to the families of these victims. That's the least they could do. They owe it to the families of these victims. So they have to follow up on every single one of those tips. And it's 1,000 of those tips just in the last week and a couple days. Week and a half. Technically, it's been a week and a half. Like, wow, man.
And conducted 150 interviews. I hope that you understand that gives a little bit of a perception of just how complex this case is. We have the utmost confidence in this investigation and that this investigation will be done right. We ask you and we ask the public to please remain patient as this investigation unfolds. And please rely on official sources of information. We really appreciate the media's assistance. We know you have a job to do. We know that you're professionals and you do it to the best of your ability. And we're thankful that you're here because without you, we could not get the correct information to the community that could help us solve this. So I can't overemphasize how much I appreciate and we appreciate in law enforcement your willingness to do this. What you are doing matters. And it matters in what we are committed to doing, and that is to the best way we can think of to honor these victims and their families is to conduct this investigation correctly. Finally, I'd like to share that I've been in regular contact with Idaho's Governor Brad Little throughout this investigation. Governor Little is making available up to $1 million for expenses related to this ongoing investigation. As you heard, the resources that are here in Moscow and throughout with this investigation, you can see that those expenses would add up quickly. Like all Idahoans, Governor Little is deeply saddened by the loss of these 4 bright and promising young lives. And he's making sure the state of Idaho provides all of the resources possible to ensure that...
Yeah, that's a good question. I mean, I don't want to overthink the West Virginia thing because I kept asking that, like, why is West Virginia involved? And the answer that I keep getting once in a while, like a lot of time people are like, yeah, exactly. Why West Virginia? But a lot of people are saying that's where the FBI field office is. Let me see something here.
Ensure that the person or persons responsible for this are brought to justice. And now I'd like to turn the time over to the University of Idaho President Scott Green.
Just as I thought, there's multiple field offices.
Good afternoon. I'm Scott Green, President of the University of Idaho. We deeply appreciate the kind words of support we have been receiving from our alumni and friends, as well as many others who may not know.
Yeah, so I'm still at a loss as to why West Virginia is involved. Maybe West Virginia's field office has a certain specialty in something that in a detail in this case where they need West Virginia's FBI assistance. I don't know. I have no idea, but I mean, West Virginia is practically on the other side of the country in comparison to Idaho. So when they say West Virginia is helping out with the case, I'm like, what? So yeah, I find that kind of weird, but I don't want to overthink it either.
Know us, but have taken time to reach out. People are donating to the victims' GoFundMe pages and the Bruce Pittman Fund for Students in Need, and they're buying personal devices for our students and continuing.
No, I'm sorry. Runs with scissors? No, they've specifically said West Virginia. I've heard them twice say West Virginia in a written statement, and the last press conference, they specifically said West Virginia.
Continuing to look for other ways that they can help. This is what it means to be a vandal. In the last 24 hours, we have sent updated communications to our students, employees, parents, and alumni. And in those communications, we discuss campus security, services available to our students and employees, our plans for both remote and live instruction to close the semester, and our plans for a candlelight vigil on November 30. All of this is available on our website. We all want swift justice and continue to work with law enforcement to aid them in any way helpful to their investigation. As the investigation continues, we will better know how to proceed in the new year. We will endeavor to find the balance among safety concerns, the need to grieve, and the long-term needs of all of our students and employees. Through everything we do, we will keep Kaylee, Madison, Xana, and Ethan, as well as their families and friends, in our thoughts and our prayers. Thank you. I'm sorry, I need to introduce Deputy City Supervisor Tyler Palmer. Tyler, sorry.
Good afternoon. My name is Tyler Palmer. I'm Deputy City Supervisor with the City of Moscow, and I'm here today on behalf of Mayor Arthur Betke, the Moscow City Council, and Moscow City Administration. The loss of Kaylee, Madison, Xana, and Ethan has sent an overwhelming, palpable wave of grief, confusion, sorrow, and anger through our peaceful community. Mayor Betke, with the support of our City Council, has instructed staff to marshal all necessary resources for our law enforcement professionals as they diligently work to assure the safety of every member of this community and find the person.
What's CGIS, Steve Yoakum? Legit question. I just don't know.
The outpouring of support, kindness, and genuine empathy locally and even globally
CJIS, sorry.
has been a humbling reminder that those who want to help far outnumber those who want to hurt. And we take some solace in that. To all of you who've reached out, sent letters and cards, provided food for those working around the clock on this investigation, and offered other resources, we thank you sincerely. These continued acts of charity and humanity remind us why we live in this tight-knit, caring community. The City of Moscow is committed to seeing this investigation through to a successful end, and will continue
Thank
to
you,
dedicate
Steve.
whatever
Criminal
resources
Justice
are
Center.
necessary for that effort. We are thankful for the immense support from the University of Idaho.
Okay, so that would make sense.
Governor
I
Elizabeth
appreciate that,
Warren's
Steve.
office,
Thank you.
the Idaho State Police, and the Federal Bureau of Investigation. Moscow's my home. And I know we won't be defined by tragedy, but how we respond to it. We mourn the loss of these beautiful young people, and we will relentlessly pursue justice on their behalf. Thank you.
So we would like to open it up to any questions, but I would like to ask if there's an Argonaut reporter here that would like to ask. And then second after that, an Evergreen reporter, if there's one in the room. So let's start with the Argonaut, please.
James Torman Aldrich with the Argonaut. I have two questions, if that's all right. Firstly, being what the police presence is going to look like after Thanksgiving break and how long that's going to last.
So I'll go ahead and answer. The police presence is going to be very heavy after the break. We have Idaho State Patrol that will also still be in the area, and you'll see a high impact of patrol officers and troopers, as well as Latah County Sheriff's Department personnel in the area.
And then secondly, will there be any possibility of the release of the 911 phone call, even in transcript form?
Not at this time. That's part of our investigation.
Frankie Beer, the Daily Evergreen. I guess the Moscow PD press release mentioned looking into hundreds of pieces of information about Kaylee's potential stalker. I was wondering what led you to believe she did have a stalker possibly, and why those pieces of information haven't come up with conclusive results.
I'm actually going to let Captain Lanier answer this question, okay?
Thank you, Chief. We obtained information through some of our interviews that Kaylee had made some comments about a stalker, so that's where that came from. We have followed up looking at specific time frames in specific areas of town. So far, we have not been able to corroborate it, but we're not done looking into that piece of information.
Dan Springer, Fox News. If I can get Captain Lanier. Sir, why not tell the public who the target was? You've said that this was a targeted attack. Why not tell the public who was targeted? If it was multiple people, it would go a long ways to telling the public what you're looking for and who you're looking for, the type of person you're looking for. Why not do that to alleviate some of the fears out there in the community?
Well, first
that's a good question, but I mean, at the same time, like, I feel like common sense answers that. You know, I would think personally, I would think that they don't want to tip off, and they're not going to say that, but they don't want to tip off. They you know, they want to hold their cards close to the chest. They don't want this killer to know everything that they know. There's always stuff that they're going to keep out of the press. Always. You never know. You know, it's just weird that this guy is like criticizing law enforcement and being like, why not tell everybody? Like, dude, there's reasons for that. You know, they're showing you that they're doing everything that they can. Like, why is that not good enough for you?
Well, first and foremost, we have the integrity of the investigation to preserve.
Exactly.
And we feel like that information is integral to us and how we conduct our investigation. Releasing that to the public may or may not flood us with a lot of information that's not relevant or specific to what
Muddying the waters.
So we do want more information, but we don't want to put our investigation in jeopardy by releasing what we have. There's always a balance between what you're willing to
Appreciate
release
that, Parham.
versus what you're trying to gather. We told the public very clearly from the beginning that we're looking for a knife. We've told the public very clearly from the beginning that we believe it was a targeted attack. I mean, to be honest, you're going to have to trust us on that at this point, because we're not going to release why we think that.
There you go. There you go. And, you know, to say that it was targeted, one of the reasons I would imagine why they released that detail, that it was a targeted attack, that they believe it was a targeted attack, is to also help keep the public at ease, to keep the rest of the students on University Idaho campus at ease. These aren't just, it wasn't just some random killing. You know, they want these people to feel safe. They have a right to feel safe. You know, and if they are in danger, I'm sure that they have the integrity to let the public know, hey, make sure to lock your doors, make sure to do this, make sure to do that. But they don't want to put people in a panic that's unnecessary either. You know, so it makes sense to me that they would just be like, okay, well, you know, it was a targeted attack, but we're not ready to say who was targeted. Simple.
Lauren Patterson, Northwest Public Broadcasting. I see that the FBI set up a special web page just to collect digital information. I'm also curious if any of the investigators can speak to this. Curious if the Wi-Fi hotspot has been tapped at all. It's possible if the suspect had their phone on them, it may have pinged off the Wi-Fi in the residence. Has that been checked on at all?
As I stated, our investigation is looking at every avenue of every piece of
Duh, we didn't think of that. Come on.
evidence that we can. The FBI has given us a website for any downloads of video or anything. So we ask people, if you have any of that, to send it to us, please.
Thank you. Natasha Chen, CNN. I have a couple of questions here. One, in many comments
Of
I've
course,
seen,
she's the only one wearing a
hours,
mask.
the first days
Miss CNN.
are so incredibly crucial. Now that we're moving into a window that's further and further away from the incident, does that concern you about the ability to arrest a suspect, or do you have information that you simply can't share with us that makes you confident that you're close to solving this?
I'm going to have the Colonel step up and address that, please.
Well, thank you for the question, and I would like to address it a little more globally than specifically. A little more globally here. Yes, as time goes on, I mean, we're time past the initial calls for service and the initial crime. However, we also, as time goes on, are able to process the forensics evidence, any forensics evidence that we may have collected, and so that helps us. And we're also able to process the tips that continue to come in, which may help us. And so, while time in one respect is not beneficial, in another respect it is, because it helps provide us with that whole picture.
She could be sick. Yeah, I'm just being a dick.
Information that we're gathering, whether it's evidence or tips or any other information that we're gathering, it may help us to provide a clearer picture. And so it may help answer those questions that we're seeking as well.
Hi, Angela Palermo, Idaho Statesman. I was wondering if there's any evidence that suggests
Kelsey
the
206.
attacker
You have a
was
great
first
Thanksgiving
floor
as
where
well.
the
Thank you so
two
much.
living roommates were.
Appreciate it.
That information will not be released at this time. It's part of our investigation. And as we stated earlier, there's many things that are involved in an investigation that we will release and things we won't.
Good afternoon, Ashley Soriano, Fox News. I have two questions. Have you considered the possibility of a murder-suicide? Is that something that you guys are?
See, that's a great question. That's a great question.
That question has been asked previously, not at a press conference. It's certainly something that we looked at in the early part of the investigation. It is not something that we're looking at this time.
And I know some of the investigators' vehicles and police vehicles are coming in and out of the driveway. Do you think that potentially could disturb any tire marks or other evidence?
Yeah, so the question has been asked about why did the crime scene tape expand, and that's not uncommon. When the first officers arrived, they tried to cordon off what they thought was important. We immediately expanded that when the investigators got there to process the scene. And logically, as this progresses, and you've seen this through our press releases, we have expanded it to several areas of the city and have in fact canvassed entire neighborhoods. So we try very, very hard to uncover every single bit of evidence possible in an area before we move on to the next area. So yes, we've looked at everything that we think we need to look at in and around the crime scene at this point.
Yeah, Missy Q.
Well,
I
it's
thought
a
that
gravel
too.
parking area, so it would be hard to say that.
How are you folks holding up? How are your detectives and officers holding up? And Chief, you mentioned that detectives are prepared to work tomorrow on Thanksgiving. So is the expectation that they will be?
That is correct. We're going to have many detectives and agents working all the way through this incident. Our people are dedicated. Our people.
Where have I
care
seen
about
that guy
the
before? Hold on.
incident. And
Is the expectation that they will be?
Where have I seen that guy before? Oh, that's right. He threw a big rock at Braveheart and missed.
that is correct. We're going to have many detectives and agents working all the way through this incident. Our people are dedicated. Our people care about this community. Our people want to ensure the community that we're here to bring safety and we're here to get a resolve on this. So we will continue to push through. We'll give people time off as they need it.
Like a
We
what
will
'em.
continue to take care of them, but we're gonna keep pushing on this until we come to a conclusion.
Chris Mitchell, KLEW. Is there any plans to increase security for the Apple Cup on Friday?
I can't speak to what's going on in the state of Washington. I can only speak to what we're doing here on the campus of the University of Idaho in concert with President Green and his team. We are absolutely, with the Idaho State Police and the Moscow Police Department, we are 100% dedicated to making sure that this continues to be a safe place for students to do what students need to do. And so that's why we have so many uniformed troopers here that aren't necessarily assisting with the investigation, but rather here to help with the campus security. And President Green and his team have been fantastic in helping to strike that balance to make sure that we have law enforcement resources.
I love President
So while
Green.
I can't speak
Guy's
to what's
awesome.
going on anywhere else, I can tell you at the University of Idaho, we have a lot of state troopers and a severe increase of state troopers and Moscow police officers here, both on campus as well as throughout the community.
John Bell, ABC News. Are investigators looking at any possible connection to an unsolved double stabbing in the Salem, Oregon area about a year and a half ago? Specifically, 2 people stabbed in their home in the middle of the night, long knife, no suspect at this point. One died, one survived.
I think we're looking at every avenue, and we have other agencies reaching out to us with other cases and stuff that we are doing follow up on. We will continue to follow up on those.
Are you aware of that case?
Actually, I had a tip come in on that case, and I forwarded it to our tip line.
Okay, one more question. Can you confirm the bodies have been released to the families or are being so released today?
I believe they have been released to the family, and I know that I believe one of them has already had a funeral.
Destiny Martin with the LCSC Pathfinder. Can you lend any insights into the possibility that the murder weapon is linked to the ROTC program? And also, you mentioned that the analysis unit is here. Will we be able to hear anything from them about a working profile they possibly have? And on that note, have you guys ruled out the possibility that the killer might be a female?
So we look at every avenue. We're looking at every group of people. Like I said early in our first press conference, we're not going to let any stone go unturned.
I mean, the likelihood that it's a
Just
female is
clarify your
pretty
second
slim.
portion of that question. Oh, the BAU,
But I
sorry.
mean, it is possible.
I would like to know if the BAU has a working profile, because you look at victimology. Are you able
Because she's broadcasting Petty Patty on her own site.
on the time of death so that we may understand who was, if it was a targeted attack, it would make the most sense if they killed one of the roommates first and then maybe the other 2. I'm not.
Sure.
This is not speculation. I'm getting off topic.
She's probably streaming on her own site or whatever.
Profile. Have they come up with anything new regarding the motive or intentions of the killer or killers?
The
Welcome,
BAU
Shar
unit
English
is
Rose.
working diligently to do what they do. Will that be provided? I'm sure that may be provided once the conclusion of this case comes together. But they are continually.
BHB wouldn't have gotten in the building, Hillbilly Nitro
and,
USA.
gathering information for that.
Good afternoon, Chief. Amanda Rowley with Crime 2. Seeing some speculation with some of the cars being searched this past week. Wonder if you can squash some of the rumors and that speculation. Is there anything you can share specifically on the white car out front, and then a follow-up for the university?
So I'll have Captain Lanier go ahead and come up with that.
Thank you.
Well, we have looked at a lot of different vehicles. I'm assuming you're referring to the vehicles that were in the parking lot at the time. Yeah, so some of those vehicles belonged to the victims and some belonged to other people in the house. And so for us, that's part of the crime scene. As I mentioned earlier, the crime scene was expanded out through the parking lot. So we wanted to make sure that we looked at those prior to releasing the crime scene. It was part of the initial investigation that night.
Thank you. And for the university, is there any additional information at this time that you can offer about the candlelight vigil, maybe what we can expect from that? And then any other information you can provide about that ask of the community to light the night on November 30th?
All right, thank you for that. I'm going to turn this over to Blaine Eccles at this point. He's actually planning the whole event.
Good afternoon. I'm Blaine Eccles, Dean of Students. The vigil is going to be hosted next Wednesday, November 30th at 5 p.m. We have it scheduled for the administration lawn at the moment. We're going to make a final determination on location early next week, just because we're waiting for the weather window to get closer, so we feel comfortable that that's where it will be located. We're anticipating a large turnout of community members as well as university members, students, faculty, and staff at that particular event. And all of the families have been invited to join us if they so wish from that aspect of it. The response has just been absolutely beautiful and overwhelming to the love that has been provided to the institution as well as the family members. The Light the Night event that you're talking about, while I don't have a lot of details on that, is set to coincide at the same time, just so that people that can't be here in person as part of the vigil are going to be able to participate remotely as well. The vigil will be live streamed, and it's safe to say that the Vandal family is going to unite and come together to support the families in the darkest moments of their life, quite frankly.
So I'm going to go ahead and take two more questions, okay?
Jordan Smith, KXLY. At this point in time, do investigators know which entrance the suspect used to enter the residence? If this was someone who might have known the door code at the front or maybe used the back door?
Once again, that's part of our investigation. We're not going to release that information this time. Thank you.
No, Baltimore News 8. You said this was a targeted event. You won't tell us why they were targeted. What should students do to prevent being targeted in the future?
Well, that's a great question, especially in light of what just happened. If you would have asked us 9 days ago, we would have had probably a different answer. Moscow's always been a very safe community. In light of this, and maybe we should always look at it this way, vigilance, always traveling in pairs, knowing where you're going, telling someone when you arrive, and just that kind of general awareness. Maybe we should, as a community, have always been doing that. You know, in some ways, this took our innocence. I would tell students that you need to stay with a friend. I know that the university staff is looking at different options to increase some of the safety on campus and providing certain options to students. So yeah, going forward, there's a lot of things that maybe we wish we would have done before, but we need to start doing now.
So I'm going to go ahead and close, but what we do want to let our community know that we do care. We do want to provide a safe environment. We will continue to work hard, and we'll continue to do everything we can. We want people to be vigilant. We want people to report anything suspicious to us and let us get there and handle it. But we are here to provide that safety. So I want to thank you today for coming, and I appreciate your questions.
I mean, yeah, I really hope that they have at least a person of interest. Yeah, see, now she's like filming herself. So, yeah. I mean, like I said, I think that what's going on here is basically that they just wanted to give us another update and keep us feeling comfortable that they're doing everything that they can to get answers for the family and for us, especially for the family, for the families, I should say. Yeah, I mean, with the holiday weekend coming up, they did reassure us that they're going to be working. There's going to be detectives still working through the holiday weekend. That makes me feel more comfortable. I'm sure that makes the families feel more comfortable. And I think that they're doing. I think they're doing everything that they can. You know, I'm not about to, and I want to shut down this. Well, not necessarily shut it down, but like try to encourage you guys to ease up a little bit on the whole serial killer theory here. It's kind of ridiculous. Just Larry, what's up, man? It's good to see you, buddy. Happy Thanksgiving to you too, man. Thank you so much. We heard them say, please just make sure that whatever information you get, it comes from law enforcement. They've been very candid and been very helpful in sharing information, very generous in sharing information with us. And there's nothing in what they've shared so far that would indicate that there is a serial killer, that this person is a serial killer. There's nothing to indicate that. A serial killer, from what I understand the definition of a serial killer being, it's 3 or more incidents with the same MO and a similar weapon. And there's only one incident here, not killings, but incidents. Okay. There could be more than one victim in that isolated incident, but this is, so far, as much as we know, based on everything that we do know, it is an isolated incident. There's nothing to indicate that there is a serial killer out there. Is it serial killer-esque in the sense of how these people were killed? Sure. Sounds like it came right out of a slasher movie. I get it. But it's, it's not, this isn't, we're not talking about Michael Myers here, man. We're not talking about Freddy Krueger. We're simply talking about somebody that everything, it seems like this was targeted. Welcome, Cassandra Harper. And Mar BMW sequel admin sent me something here through Twitter. I'm going to actually go over that real quick. Now, this is from Daily Mail. Daily Mail is not too reliable, but it's also not completely unreliable either. But this is interesting. Now, this is a blueprint here of the house. So I can't, it doesn't say, okay, so top floor, second floor, right here. Okay, so the second floor, there's the bedroom where Xana and Ethan were asleep. And this is where they were. And then apparently this animal went upstairs to the master bedroom. I don't know if this is Kaylee or Maddie's room, but either Kaylee or Maddie were, each one was in one of these bedrooms, and this is where they were killed. And let's talk a little bit about okay, so all right, so that's Kaylee's room. The master bedroom is Kaylee's. Madison is bedroom 2 here. Okay. And then Ethan and Xana over here on the lower floor, which is the second floor. And I want to me find something here. I'm gonna have to borrow. I'm gonna have to borrow a little of Iked Mel's content here. Because I want to talk about this Jack, who law enforcement basically cleared, at least for the moment. But at no point did he say at this time, although people think that, like I said, I think that's just a Mandela effect type thing, which is understandable. You know, you hear a lot of chatter and you hear a lot of people, and then it's safe to or it's not safe, but it's understandable when we think we hear something, because we think we hear law enforcement say something because we hear so many other people say that that's what they said. So let me I'm going to play this real quick.
About 2:52, Kaylee was calling her former boyfriend, longtime boyfriend. The parents vouch for him.
Absolutely love Jack. We stand behind Jack 1000%. Jack was Kaylee's boyfriend for many years. They just recently broke up. There was no animosity at all. It was a breakup on Kaylee's point. It was not, they still talked every single day. Kaylee just thought that she needed a little break. They were on the mend.
Now, Kaylee's mom has a lot of information here, and this is not to bad talk her mom or anything. This is just an observation, folks. Little observations that I'm getting from this. Okay. You know, our parents in our personal lives only know really as much as we share with them, don't we? So basically what we're hearing right now, I think it's kind of safe to assume that this is what Kaylee's account is based on, you know what I mean? This is what her mom is saying based on what Kaylee has told her. Now, maybe they're very close to Jack, and maybe they heard this information from Jack. Maybe Kaylee's like, Mom, that's none of your business. Don't worry about it. And then they just love Jack to death, because Jack is just super nice, you know, and Jack is just a girl's parents, you know, just dream boyfriend, which is understandable. It happens a lot. But, you know, she seems to know a lot about their relationship and their breakup and details of that and how good of terms they're in. And I mean, how much could mom realistically know?
The means of getting back together. Kaylee talked to Jack the whole time she was here for that week and a half.
One of her messages, one of her last messages, she reached out to Jack and said, Jack, get back to me. And he didn't. She goes, we share a dog together, which they did. She's like, you need to reach out to me. So
please come over. She was wanting Jack to come over.
Okay. So apparently one of the messages is her saying, we share a dog together. You need to come over. All right. Now, again, law enforcement says they don't believe that he had anything to do with these murders. I believe law enforcement. At the end of the day, when they say that, I'm sure they looked into it. You know, the first people that they look into is a significant other. Love, jealousy, or money, or, you know, these are usually the motives. And so when there's a significant other or an ex, you know, they're going to probe into that. So, but I just find it strange that mom knows as much as she does, because that doesn't sound, I mean, it sounds like she's the one that's like, we want, you know, I need you to come over. She's probably, it sounds like a drunk dial, and she probably just felt lonely that night. Who knows what happened throughout her night. And she just wanted the comfort of the person that she feels most comfortable with. That happens a lot. I've been in breakups with someone that we've been broken up, and then we felt, you know, at that age, we felt comfortable with each other. One of us calls the other, and then one of us comes over to the other's place. And, you know, the breakup still stands, but, you know, let's hang out just tonight. That happens. It's not uncommon.
Jack is not they're wasting their time with Jack, and Jack is just as distraught as we are. Jack is our family. Jack is 100%, 2000% our family, and Jack is with us, and we stand behind him 100%. We're supporting him, and we know in our
I that's really nice. I love that they are that adamant. They're speaking publicly on national news, Fox News, and saying we stand by Jack 2000%. That, along with law enforcement saying we don't believe he had anything to do with it in this press conference, well, that's enough for me.
in our heart and our minds and our souls, in the depths of our souls, Jack is hurting, and Kaylee and Jack would have eventually been married. They would have eventually been married, and they would have eventually had children together.
See,
so
but then I get thrown off by statements like that. You know, like, how do you know that? How do you know that they would have eventually gotten married? You know what I mean? Like, that just sounds like wishful thinking. Like, this is the guy that we like. She sounds like mom that's like, this is the guy that we like, and you better not ever screw this up, because this is the guy that you need to stay with. Because most parents are just like, well, you know, we love him and he's family, you know. But to go as far as to say 100% they would have gotten married and they would have had children together. You know what I mean? Like, I mean, but at the same time, when you're sitting here talking to a national news conglomerate, you might just say things just to say things, you know?
So to say ex-boyfriend, it was Kaylee just being a brat, you know, being like, I just need a break. But
I mean, and then she says it's Kaylee being a brat, saying that I need a break, you know? Like, I mean, it reminds me of this movie, right? Oh, it's this movie. I think it's called High Fidelity. Yeah, High Fidelity. And John Cusack's in this. And God, John Cusack's such a whiny bitch in that movie. I can't stand his character in that movie. The whole movie's about his girlfriend. His live-in girlfriend decides to move out because they need a break. Okay. He's not growing up. She's a lawyer and he owns a record store. Right. So she's kind of out of his league, more or less, you know, because he just doesn't seem to be happy with his life. And then his mom, he calls his mom, and then or his mom calls him, and then totally criticizes him because she left and blames him. And how could you screw this up? Because she's great and blah, 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 blah. And doesn't show him any support at all whatsoever. And I'm not saying that this mom is not supporting her daughter. That's not what I'm saying at all. Just saying it reminds me of that in the sense that mom and dad just love Jack. And they're just like, man, we've got all the hopes in the world that our daughter, who is fickle and she's capable of just being a brat, you know, does not screw this up and manages to get her shit together and appreciate this guy for who he is and end up building a life with him, doing the right thing and building a life with him. This is the guy that mom and dad approve of. But I mean, she seems like they were adamant about that. So, and not that it's really relevant, because it really isn't, but
Jack was in her heart, and they were close to getting back together. And that was just
okay. See, how do you know that? You know what I mean? How do you know that? Because what do people that age do? They do things to piss off their parents, right? That's, you know, it could just be that, you know, she decided to have a break with this guy because mom and dad are so adamant about this dude being the one that she's going to just kind of go against the grain. She's going to, you know what? I'm just going to be somewhat defiant to my mom. Maybe I love the guy and I want to be with the guy, but I'm going to take a break because I know it's going to piss my parents off. And I'm just going to lash out at my parents because that's what people do. And for no good reason. You know, you could, I mean, dude, as a parent of a teenager, I remember actually my kid is just slightly older than these people now. And when my kid was a teenager, that was everything. Like I could make perfect sense. And my kid would just do the opposite just because he didn't want to do what I told him out of general principle. You know what I mean? Like, it's, you know, so I wonder about that. So I kind of take what mom is saying here with a grain of salt. You know, if it weren't for law enforcement making that statement today saying we do not believe that Jack had anything to do with this, I would be somewhat questioning. I would be asking these same questions about what's going on here. And I would still be like, I don't want to accuse anybody, but I wonder what's going to happen with Jack. I hope they're looking into Jack, you know, but now that law enforcement's cleared him, you know, but still, until that point where law enforcement said that, I looked side-eyed at this statement from mom and dad. I did look side-eyed at this statement from mom and dad. So, but yeah, I just found that weird. I was just like, man, how do you know they're going to get married? How do you know that they're going to have kids together? You know what I mean? Like, that's odd that you're that sure of it, you know? Well, you know, James Blonde 007, it really doesn't matter what we're convinced of. The responsible thing to do is to go with what law enforcement is telling us right now. They're giving me every reason to believe that they are doing everything they can to thoroughly conduct this investigation and get answers and bring this person to justice and get justice for these victims. So if they say that he's cleared, then I'm going to go with that and say that he's cleared. I am not suspicious of Jack at this point. I'm simply not. Let's see. It's so possible. My mother always said I would marry my husband. I was 17 at the time, but does happen, the glare. I'm not saying it doesn't happen. I just think it's odd for a parent to be that adamant and that sure, you know? Yeah, people. This could be anybody. This could have been somebody who she had a class with that he couldn't take his eyes off of, and then he probably tried to say hi, didn't hear him, and then took it personally, and then sat in his room stewing about it, and then decided to go and stab everybody to death because he's a fucking nutbag. It could be that fucking simple. This kind of reminds me of the Missy Beavers case. Does anybody remember that case? Does anybody remember the Missy Beavers case? There was actually video footage. This basically Missy Beavers was a fitness instructor, and she went and she was going to teach a class, a fitness class, a group fitness class, at the church that she attends, and somebody targeted her. Clearly, I mean, she posted on Facebook that she was going to be there, rain or shine, show up. I was fascinated with this case. I was obsessed with this case because there was actual footage of the killer dressed in like tactical SWAT gear, had a very strange gout, had a weird walk, and you know, you couldn't tell if it was male or female. I had a theory, but I mean, it's a very loose theory because there was very little information. But or gate, sorry, not gout, gate. Gout's a different thing. Thank you. But I had a theory. I mean, most people were like, "Oh, well, it's a woman," because when you watch the video here, I'll show you the video real quick. Since we're talking about it. Now, trigger warning. This is actual footage of the killer. Okay? This is actual footage of Missy Beaver's killer. And it's just moments before this individual kills her. So Missy Beavers has not arrived to the church yet, but this person just randomly walking around. Okay. Just checking doors to see if they're locked or unlocked. I mean, this person's just killing time. Look, they've got kind of a feminine walk, but I'm not convinced that this is a woman. People think that this is a woman. But why would a woman have all that police tactical gear like that? And you like, it gets real interesting here because there's yeah, you see that the 1 foot's just kind of on the outside. I mean, it's possible it's a female, but I don't think it is. I have a theory on this person. See, look at how that person swings a hammer. They have a hammer. So this person basically has like a little Batman utility belt of non-lethal weapons that you could find in a garage, in a household garage, which I find interesting. But this person seems to have absolutely no experience in using any of these tools that you would find in a garage. Take a look at the swing of the hammer. See that? It's very weak. They're trying to break a window. So my theory on that I've always stood by is it's a kid. I've always thought that it was a kid. Just a lazy ass Gen Z kid that plays too many goddamn video games, probably had a crush on her, and just overthought it too much. And then, you know, I mean, what's with the little utility belt? You know what I mean? Full of stuff. And then they planned, you know, and then this person apparently stabbed her in the face. Just terrible. Really violent. Just waited for her to show up and killed her. And in the meantime, thought, okay, well, I'll vandalize the church. But there was no indication of like rage until Missy shows up. In the manner of which she's killed, there's no sign of rage. He's just randomly walking around and then, you know, with a hammer just kind of whatever, trying to break windows and shit. It's really weird. So, I mean, my theory is that it's a kid with a crush, and she was probably very patronizing to him, and probably didn't even know he existed really. And she was probably somebody that he thought about in his raging hormones. You know, I'm thinking between 16 and 20, between the ages of 16 and 20, and ordered a bunch of bullshit tactical gear because they played too many fucking Call of Duty games or something, and was living a fantasy. Yeah, Miriam, I appreciate that, but we don't give a shit about Chris McDonough here. We don't like Chris McDonough here. Chris McDonough is a douche. He's a tragedy pimp. He's the worst of the tragedy pimps, as far as I'm concerned. So, and you know, I'm not an experienced profiler. Yeah, I mean, I'm not an experienced profiler. I'm just saying, you know, that's what it seems like to me. Like, why would a woman, you know, like a grown man is likely, who has access to those tools, is going to know how to use those tools. This looks like to me a kid who went into his dad's garage and stole a bunch of stuff and took it with him. So, but yeah, I mean, I honestly don't know. I honestly don't know. And unfortunately, I mean, there people were looked into. There was the husband and the husband's dad. The husband's dad had a similar walk, similar build. But everybody that was a person of interest was cleared. And that case is as cold as cases get right now. And it's really sad. It's really, really sad. But when I first started following true crime, I was obsessed with that case. I think I first heard about it listening to True Crime Garage podcast. And I would text with those guys back and forth. But they were kind of dicks about it, you know. They were like, nah, I don't know about all that. I was like, okay, you know. But I mean, I don't have any reason, you know, other than, I mean, we don't have anything to work with, you know. That's all we have is that video. And the best thing that that's the best we have to try to, you know, as laymen's, try to profile that killer. You know, what would be the motive? Chag, thank you, I appreciate that. No, I'm not a profiler at all. Yeah, there was a car seen driving through nearby through the parking lot by nearby cameras. I can't remember. It was some store. I can't remember. God, it was years since I even thought about this case. Years since I thought about that case. Like, I want to say 2018 was the last time I really thought about it. 2019 even. Well, that's the thing, is she was targeted though, Lisa. Like, everything indicates that she was targeted. You know, why would that person get all decked out in phony tactical gear? And because that looks like tactical gear that you could just order online, not even real police issued tactical gear. So I mean, it's just, I don't know. Yeah, you know, who else would have these weird fantasies? Why choose that? Why not just put on a mask? Why get decked out in phony police tactical gear? If you're not just some fucking wacky ass kid who fantasizes about killing somebody, you know. Right, Harry Potter's beard, exactly. Playing out a childish fantasy. That's how it came off to me. But I don't know. You know, I don't know. And yeah, I think they were infatuated. I if I had to speculate on a motive, which is all we can do. I mean, infatuation can be dangerous, but it can also be harmless. Most of the time, it's harmless. You know, I mean, who here has never had a crush? You know, who here has never had somebody that just consumed your thoughts all the time? There's no way that there's a male in my chat that never had somebody at a young age that they just always fantasized about being with, you know? And nowadays it's just like considered stalkerish, you know what I mean? Because shit like this happens now. Shit like this didn't used to happen. Not the way that it does now, you know. So it can absolutely be a very innocent thing, you know, to just have somebody who you think about all the time. I mean, wouldn't you want to be with somebody who you're the most important thing on their mind? Isn't that what we all want in a partner, in a lover? Is somebody who where the first thing that they think of in the morning and the last thing they think about at night? That's what we all want, you know, is to be number one in someone's heart. There's nothing wrong with that. So infatuation can be okay, you know. It's just it's bad if you're mentally unstable, you know, or emotionally unstable. Yeah, that's when it's bad. But I mean, who here has never had somebody who they thought about all the time? You know, there's nothing wrong with that. That's love, man. Well, no, there's no such thing as harmless stalking, Steve. Uh, that's when it becomes unhealthy. Stalking, yeah, that's not okay ever on any level. Like following someone home and shit, calling their phone and hanging up and shit like that. No, that's no. Yeah, that's never okay. There's like if you can't take a hint, you need to check yourself. Because again, that, you know, that infatuation has to be reciprocated. It might take a little time to get over, but you know, like once you realize that person is just simply not interested in you, it's time to move on. It's time to have some self-respect. Because again, that goes with that whole, you know, I want to be the first thing that you think about and the last thing that you think about, you know, in your day. There's nothing wrong with that. That's having that kind of self-respect. And if that person does not feel that way about you, it's time to respect how they feel. You know, once you realize that, you need to respect how they feel. You can't be following them home and freaking out and interfering in their relationships and shit like that. That shit's stalking and it's fucked up, and you should be locked up for doing that shit. whether it be in a psych ward or in jail, depending on the severity of your stalking. But stalking is never okay. But anyways, guys, I'm going to go ahead and wrap this up. I appreciate you guys joining me tonight. Make sure to hit the like for me. Really helps out the channel. And if you're not subscribed, please subscribe. And we will do this again very soon, my friends. Oh, wait. And have a happy Thanksgiving. If I don't really have a lot of plans for Thanksgiving. I think we're going to have some dinner and then everybody just kind of goes their own way. But if I get bored, you know, maybe we'll do a little somehow Thanksgiving stream if for those of you who are kind of flying solo. So anyways, guys, again, we will do this again very soon, my friends.